Hello, everyone. It's Tabitha again with another episode of Open the Wound. Today, we'll talk about dealing with guilt from past wounds. How many of you have experienced relationships that ended badly? How many times did your significant other blame everything on you, your faults, your mistakes, and made you feel like the lowest person on the totem pole? I mean, truly made you feel like you were the scum of the earth. We make mistakes in relationships. We have flaws, and yes, sometimes we can make people feel bad. None of us are perfect. The guilt that I'm referring to is guilt that comes from wounds of failed relationships. Those wounds cause you to feel as though you failed to do what needed to be done to make the relationship successful. You begin to evaluate what you may have done wrong, especially if your significant other always told you that you caused them to be angry, and that's why they hit you, or that's why they called you out of your name. You tend to believe that things are your fault and that you are a burden in life to others. This is a form of emotional abuse, and it's used to control you and to destroy your self-esteem. Yes, it will. I had a relationship years ago, and initially it started out very pleasant. At least I thought. And I thought I had someone in my life that was good for me, and I thought they were from a God-fearing, loving family. Well, not so. I mean, yes, they were from a church-going family, and, they did go to church on a consistent basis. But just because a person goes to church doesn't mean that they have the love of Christ on the inside of them. So the person that I was dealing with at that time, I didn't realize just how damaged they were. And so because they were damaged, they end up doing damage to me. I didn't think I was being controlled, nor did I feel as though I was being emotionally and physically abused until I got out of the relationship. He would tell me not to walk to the store and that he wanted to take me wherever I needed to go. And I thought that was really nice. He really cares for me. He doesn't want me to be walking out here in the heat and, different things like that. And so one day we're riding in the car and he hauls off and he slaps me. And it was because I was looking in the direction of where there were some men standing. And so he thought that I was looking at the men out of being attracted to them. And that was not it at all. I was just looking in the direction of where the man was. So whenever I would get in the car, I had to turn my head or look down while riding. I couldn't converse with anyone of the opposite sex, not even if they spoke, just saying hello. If I did, it would be an argument or a fight. Eventually, as time went on, I started realizing that he was the one that was stepping out and trying to make me feel that I was the problem. He began to put me down about my weight and tried to get me to use drugs so I could lose the weight. Yes, he offered me drugs to get me to lose weight. Wow. That was so spiritual, wasn't it? That was so much love and so much concern on his behalf that he would actually want me to use drugs to lose weight. Now, mind you, I had a battle with drugs in the past, and he offered it to me for me to lose weight. Go figure. I had always been small until I got pregnant with my son, and once I had my baby, he wouldn't let me go anywhere unless he drove me. So I couldn't leave the house until he got back home. I used to be active. I used to play tennis. I used to play basketball on the basketball court. I used to do a lot of things. And so Because of the inactivity, I gained more weight due to being a prisoner in my home. I began to feel guilty for not being who he wanted me to be. I was guilty for making him feel as though I was looking at other men. I felt guilty, and I didn't know what I was doing. I felt guilty about being overweight. It's amazing how emotional abuse can cause feelings of guilt in your mind, and you're the one that is the victim. The sad thing is that you don't know you're the victim, and I did. I really did not know I was a victim. I was being emotionally controlled by a damaged individual. Guilt can make you stay in situations longer than you should and cause you to change your whole outlook on who you are or who you were. I didn't know who I was. I felt guilty and ashamed from perceived offenses that I never even made. I began to think that I was the cause of all my problems and the problems of others. How did I even get to this point? My self-esteem was so low and I had no hope. But one day, a light bulb came on. I realized that I needed to get away from the abuse, the ridicule, the sadness, and I got angry to the point I fought for my freedom as if I was an animal in captivity. The last straw for me was on July 4th of 1992. We were riding in a car, and he started arguing with me. Out of the blue, he hauled off and backhanded me right in the face. I proceeded to fight back as I always had done, but this time I decided that I didn't want to keep fighting. I jumped out of the car to escape from him, and my 2-year-old son was in the back seat, and he jumped out after me, and I had to catch him. At this time, there was an older gentleman sitting on a porch who witnessed all of this, and he came to assist me. He asked if I needed a police officer, and I said no. You would think I would say yes. Even after all of that, my mental state was so jacked up. I started feeling guilty, thinking that it was my fault. Yet again, I wanted to escape, but yet it was my fault. That was that mental state, that emotional damage that was done, that had me thinking yet again it was my fault. And I told the man it was my fault. And this older gentleman looked at me and said, "No, sweetheart, no man should ever put his hands on a woman, no matter what. And that I didn't deserve to be treated in the manner to which he witnessed." And you know what? When he said that to me, my thought process was that of shame. I felt ashamed. I felt like, why did I allow myself to go through this? Do I deserve this? But no, I didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve to be hit. I didn't deserve to be ridiculed. I didn't deserve to be called overweight. I didn't deserve to be a prisoner. I was a prisoner. So this man, he helped me to get myself together, and I called someone to come get me, to take me to my family. And needless to say, that was the end of that relationship. However, it took me years to get to a place to feel comfortable looking at men or women. I was still being emotionally controlled by someone that was no longer in my life. Guilt and shame of what I had been through made me think that people could see my scars. I wouldn't go out. I was afraid to talk to people. I was nervous all the time, looking over my shoulder as if I was going to be captured. Guilt made me feel like I was a loser, a failure. I was everything that I was told. I was a nobody. I was nothing. How to deal with guilt from past wounds. First, realize that as human beings, we will make mistakes. Guilt is a part of our lives because we all have done something or said something to someone and had remorseful feelings. You may feel guilt for lying about something, or guilt from breaking something and blaming your sibling for it. Or maybe you cheated on an exam and you knew it was wrong. Guilt is a part of our moral code that helps us determine good and bad behavior and helps us to not keep making the same mistakes over and over again. My guilt came from an irrational thought process that was derived from past wounds in relationships. I assumed that I was the problem and I needed to be fixed. What does your guilt come from? Is it rational, from perceived, or imagined offenses? Are you feeling as though everything you do is a burden because of what someone has told you? Is your guilt coming from an emotional abuse state that you are unaware of? Take a deep breath and focus on where the guilt is coming from. Ask yourself if you caused an offense. If you find that you did, then by all means apologize. We all make mistakes, but do not allow guilt to make you feel like you are the worst person in the world. We learn from mistakes, make amends for them, and we move on in life. Don't beat yourself up constantly thinking about past mistakes. It could cause you to take a trip on Guilt Boulevard and you'll find yourself down in the dumps again over something that happened years ago. How I deal with guilt may not be how you or anyone else deals with guilt. So if you find a healthy way of dealing with guilt that gives you peace of mind, then do that. Just remember that mistakes happen, guilty feelings will happen, but don't allow someone to guilt you into doing something that you would not normally do, and don't allow people to manipulate you using guilt tactics to control you. That's all I have today on dealing with guilt, and I hope that today's episode has helped you in some way, form, or fashion. As always, I thank you for listening and subscribing, and it is truly healing for your mind, body, spirit, and soul. Have a good day.